Welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement, where we chit chat about how we're staying regulated in a very dysregulating world.
Come along with us as we deal with life's messiness.
I'm Lori Sharp Page.
And I'm Crimson MacDonald. And this week we're talking about
Work from home is a thing, it has been a thing, and it's been interesting to watch the pendulum really swing back and forth multiple times. Crimson was telling me about a Wall Street Journal article that she saw. The
back to work movement. All these companies wanted everyone to come back to the office after the pandemic, and then it failed because we kept getting hit with more pandemic.
I kind of had forgotten there were like waves there where people
Right, because Omicron hit, and then we were like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go back to work.
Yeah.
Then about a year passed. We got the booster thing. Everyone felt better. And then it was like, hey, let's try to go back to work. But we know this is a harsh shock to the system. So come back 3 or 4 days a week, 2 to 4 days, have a presence. So businesses were not, at the time, investing in physical infrastructure for employees. At the same time, 10 years before the pandemic, companies were already looking at remote work and how to make workplaces more efficacious.
Yeah.
And remote work was one way. And from a talent perspective, anyone that recruits talent, it makes your life easier when you have a national pool.
There's a level of compensation that comes with having that level of flexibility, right? What's interesting about work from home, because I think sometimes we do forget, like it was present prior to the pandemic. It was a perk. It was a privilege.
People always think it, I'm like, I was like,
it was already part of the world of work.
I'm an old millennial, like one of the first. I'm an OG millennial. But like, if you think about it, I have never had a professional job I couldn't work from home. My first job, corporate, outside of the law firm and putting myself through grad school, it was at Ipsos, and we could work from home. We worked from home all the time.
And that would have been,
and it wasn't even
2007, 2008,
2009. But it was productivity. They're like, oh, you have the sniffles, you don't feel good? That sucks. You can still finish compiling the data.
And you don't have to get us all sick. Yeah, it was very present. It was very much a thing.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's not compensation, but it is definitely a benefit of the job. And I know a lot of people are hesitant, or at least pre-pandemic, hesitant to leave jobs. That was something I would talk about a lot with my clients as a therapist, is like this cost benefit analysis of like, this job has some real challenges, but I have a level of flexibility to attend to my life in a way that like really brings the values. Work from home is a thing. It has been a thing. And it's been interesting to watch the pendulum really swing back and forth multiple times. And this article kind of pointed to another swinging of the pendulum.
That they're quietly kind of like, hey, don't come back to the office. Because what they're finding is that it's increasing turnover. They don't have enough physical space. They haven't invested. I mean, we're going to be at the 6-year anniversary of this pandemic. People need to remember, including me, like it takes a decade to make plans that involve physical buildings. Like if you're a business, you want to expand your physical operations, you have to get like architects and stuff and like plan and buy land. And so basically no one has any room for all of us to go back to the office. All the white collars can't go back to the office. And they can't say anything about this because then the forces that will be in political offices will say, but you're supposed to go back to the office.
Well, it's interesting because the reason why it was so fascinating that you brought this up this morning is because what I have been seeing in the news is so much, and hearing so much of all these companies being like, return to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, no exceptions, no flexibility, you know, kind of like the most extreme version. And I also have seen articles suggesting that part of this was a way to kind of thin out their workforce.
I think so.
It makes perfect business sense. I'm not saying that it's ethical or how we should be running our businesses, but I can see the business case for that.
Well, it's in business 101, natural attrition. You want natural attrition versus laying people off.
So it's interesting to hear, like, yeah, you're right. What did you say, like, for Amazon, for each cubicle they have like 6 people?
Like they don't have enough physical.
They don't have the systems to actually support getting everybody back. And so it seems like getting everybody back was more of like a cultural move to shift something, right? To shift some boundaries or expectations.
Or it's personality type. Think about it. Like, I mean, I would say more personality type, because when you're job hunting, you're going to put in if you want to work remote or you want to work in person. And if the job requires you to be in person and you're really excited about that, you might be a personality type that they're looking for.
So interesting you mentioned that, because I do think personality must come into into play here, because not only do they have the like 6-to-1 issue of the cubicle, I would just think that interpersonal issues, especially in a space where maybe there's not enough space for everybody and people are frustrated by that, would be a lot more intense with everybody all together. Than if everybody was at home in their own environment. I mean, I'd say the interpersonal BS would still happen. It does still happen remotely.
Absolutely.
It's not that. I'm just saying that, like, the extra intensity of having everybody forced together, that seems like I wonder how those HR people are really doing over there. If they have to be dealing with some mess. You know,
we have the actual government saying you should be working in your office.
Right.
But the world has AI coming, like staring down at us. And then there's just the reality of life is so complicated and challenging and logistically hard that adding this superficial metric of being in person, especially knowing the drama we can all create in person, is hard. But I understand there's a contingency of people that are like, I can't focus at home. I see that dust bunny and I go after that.
I think we've learned a lot about how people work and how people work differently in this experience. I think there's a lot of value in us dissecting it, but it seems like there's an awful lot of push and pull, and that level of change and asking people to change how they're showing up or how they're dividing their time and not giving them a reasonable notification and supports to do that. It's really hard.
Well, and it's hard to be equitable. I mean, I have a friend went to a psychiatrist for the first time and got a note saying that they have crippling anxiety and can't ever go back in person. And like, is that fair?
I mean, I think it's a complicated...
Any policy that brings so much subjectivity is a policy that should be re-examined.
But I do think that, generally speaking, the more flexibility and stability you can give your people, the best. It takes a lot of emotional endurance to, number one, have that conversation on a leadership level, but also just to exist in a space like that. They're asking more of their people for that. Like, this is going to have impacts on their psychological capital. I've known people who have left positions because all of a sudden the very family-friendly, focused company that they worked for is now saying that everyone has to be butts in chairs 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, when they had already, prior to all this, worked a modified like 6 to 3 schedule so that they could be present in their kids' life, you know? So I think taking stuff like that away it changes the relationship, it changes the dynamic. I agree it's hard to be equitable, especially at scale. I think this is an area where small to mid-sized businesses do a little bit better.
They can meet the needs. They can
meet the needs a little bit more with good boundaries. That's a part of this too. But all in all, I think people want stability and they want flexibility. And when you're asking them to exist in a place where they don't have either one of those, you're taxing their emotional endurance.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So, interesting to see. Interesting times we live in.
Leadership's hard. Can't please everyone.
Want to win the ultimate emotional endurance toolkit? Sign up for our newsletter before November 30th to enter. You could snag a full EEI assessment, 1-year access to Cope 365, a signed copy of Conscious Coping, and a Sprouting Change backpack stuffed with coping tools like Damn It Doll, Breath Whistle, Cooling Towel, and Trauma Tetris. That's over $500 of emotional endurance goodness. Sign up now at sproutingchange.com/join us and start coping smarter.